The Silent Watchers. The observation deck of the Artemis station offered the most breathtaking view in the Sol system. Earth below, a perfect blue-green jewel set against the velvet backdrop of space. Commander Elena Reyes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her dark eyes fixed on the distant stars. Her uniform, a simple gray affair with blue trim, identified her as Earth's chief diplomatic officer, though few outside humanity knew what power that position truly held. "Commander," said a soft voice from behind her. "They're here." Elena turned to face her aide, Captain James Chen. His usually composed features were tight with tension. The Jarque fleet has just exited their FTL corridor at the edge of the system. 17 vessels, including what appears to be their flagship. "Right on schedule," Elena replied, checking her wristband. The holographic display showed Earth Standard Time, 14:30. How punctual of them. The council representatives are waiting in the conference chamber. Some seem nervous. Elena allowed herself a small smile. They should be. The Jarque don't make social calls. She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. Let's not keep our guests waiting. The Artemis station's conference chamber was designed to impress. A massive circular room with a holographic display in the center, currently showing the approaching Jarque fleet. Around the circular table sat representatives from 12 species that made up the Galactic Council, all allies of humanity to varying degrees. Most looked uncomfortable. As Elena entered, all eyes turned to her. She nodded politely and took her seat at the head of the table. The station's AI, Apollo, materialized as a soft blue light beside her. "The Jarque envoy is requesting immediate docking clearance," Apollo said, its voice calm and measured. "Their transmission indicates this is not a negotiation." "Grant them clearance," Elena ordered. "Standard diplomatic protocols." The Tellurian ambassador, a tall humanoid with iridescent skin, leaned forward. "Commander Rice, perhaps we should discuss terms before they arrive. The Jarque Collective has conquered 3 systems in the past solar cycle. They've never approached the Council before." "They're not approaching the Council," Elena clarified. "They're approaching Earth. There's a difference." Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors slid open. The Jarque envoy entered, flanked by 4 guards in gleaming black armor. The envoy himself was tall, nearly 7 feet, with gray skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. 6 eyes, arranged in 2 vertical rows, blinked independently as they surveyed the room. The Jarque were known for their technological superiority and their belief that all other species were simply waiting to be assimilated or eliminated. "I am Vorax, High Emissary of the Jarque Collective," the alien announced, his voice translated through the station's systems into perfectly modulated English. "I speak with the voice of Supreme Overlord Quetzal." Elena rose from her seat. "Commander Elena Reyes, Earth Diplomatic Corps. Welcome to Artemis Station." Vorax did not acknowledge the greeting. Instead, he gestured and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing the entire Sol system. "The Jarque Collective has determined that human expansion has reached unacceptable levels," Vorax stated, his tone flat and emotionless. "Your primitive species has established colonies on 17 worlds across 6 systems in the last century. This rate of growth cannot be permitted to continue." Elena's expression remained neutral. "I wasn't aware there were restrictions on how quickly a species could establish colonies on uninhabited worlds." "There are now," Vorax replied. "The collective has decided that humanity will surrender its colonial holdings beyond the Sol system and acknowledge Jarque authority over all disputed territories. You have 48 Earth hours to comply." A murmur ran through the council representatives. The Tellurian ambassador rose halfway from his seat before thinking better of it. "And if we refuse?" Elena asked, her voice betraying no emotion. Vorax's 6 eyes blinked in perfect sequence. "Then the collective will demonstrate its technological superiority. Your species' defenses are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are ineffective. Resistance would result in unnecessary suffering. Elena studied the alien for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. I see. Apollo, please send notification to all human settlements and vessels. Authorization code. Rise Omega 73. The AI pulsed once. Notification sent, Commander. What notification? Vorax demanded, a hint of annoyance creeping into his translated voice. Elena turned back to the alien. Just informing our people of your ultimatum. Standard protocol. Across human space, from the crowded megacities of Earth to the farthest mining outpost on Proxima Centauri IV, the same message appeared on communication devices. Jarkai ultimatum received. Remain calm. Continue normal operations. Protocol Sleeping Giant activated. And across human space, the response was the same. Laughter. In a classroom on Mars, a teacher read the notification to her students. One raised his hand. Miss Peterson, what's a Jarkai? The teacher smiled. Someone who's about to learn an important lesson. In the shipyards of Titan, workers paused as they read the message, then returned to their tasks with knowing grins. A foreman slapped his colleague on the back. Finally, I was starting to think we built all this for nothing. On distant Epsilon Eridanite, a colony barely 5 years old, settlers gathered in their community hall as the governor read the message aloud. When he finished, the hall erupted in cheers. Back on Artemis Station, Elena watched Vorax's confusion with quiet satisfaction. You find this amusing? The Jarkai envoy demanded. Your species faces extinction, and you smile. High Emissary, Elena said, her voice suddenly carrying an authority that made even the council representatives straighten in their seats. Humanity has maintained peace with the galactic community for nearly a century. We've traded fairly. We've respected boundaries. We've shared knowledge. But there's something you should understand about humans. She leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on the alien's six-eyed gaze. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Always. Vorax scoffed. Your preparations are inadequate. Our scans show minimal defensive capabilities around your colonies. Your military vessels are outdated and few in number. Is that so? Elena pressed a control on the table, and the holographic display changed to show a small, seemingly ordinary human transport vessel. This is the UES Artemis Dawn, a standard colony supply ship. At least, that's what it appears to be. With another command, the hologram transformed, the ship's outer hull peeling away to reveal advanced weapon systems, shield generators, and propulsion technology, unlike anything seen publicly in human space. Every human vessel, from the smallest mining ship to our largest colony transports, carries similar capabilities, Elena explained. Hidden in plain sight. The council representatives looked as shocked as the Jarkai envoy. Only the Tellurian ambassador seemed unsurprised, a slight smile playing across his iridescent features. Impossible, Vorax hissed. We've observed your ships. We've scanned them. You've seen what we wanted you to see, Elena replied. Humanity learned a harsh lesson in our early history. Visible strength invites challenge. Perceived weakness, coupled with hidden strength, provides security. On the edge of the Sol system, the Jarkai fleet moved into attack formation. Aboard the flagship, Supreme Commander Quetzal watched with cold satisfaction as his forces prepared to make an example of the human defiance. All vessels report ready, Supreme One, his first officer reported. Weapon systems charged. Target solutions for Earth's major population centers acquired. Quetzal's six eyes narrowed. The humans have refused our generous terms. They have not responded further, Supreme One. Their diplomat continues to speak with our envoy, but no formal response has been received. Then we shall provide the appropriate motivation, Quetzal decided. Target their lunar outpost, a minor demonstration of our power. The order was given. The Jarkai flagship's main cannon, a weapon capable of shattering a small moon, powered up. Energy built, focusing toward a single devastating point. The blast fired, a brilliant beam of destructive energy lancing through space toward Earth's moon. And then something impossible happened. The beam struck nothing. Yet it didn't continue toward the moon. Instead, the energy simply disappeared, as if it had encountered an invisible barrier in the emptiness of space. What happened? Quetzal demanded, rising from his command chair. Unknown, Supreme One, his science officer replied, frantically checking readings. The energy simply vanished. On Artemis Station, Alina watched the Jarke's failed attack on the main display. She turned to Vorax, whose 6 eyes were wide with confusion. "That was your first mistake," she said quietly, "firing without a formal declaration of war." Apollo's light pulsed urgently. "Commander, protocol Sleeping Giant fully activated. Defense grid online. All systems operational." Around Earth, the Moon, Mars, and throughout the Sol system, space itself seemed to ripple as advanced stealth fields deactivated. Massive defense platforms, previously invisible to all sensors, appeared in strategic positions. On Earth's moon, huge sections of the surface slid aside, revealing weapon emplacements that had been hidden there for decades. "What is this?" Vorax demanded, his translation unit barely keeping up with his agitated speech. Alina's expression remained calm. "This, High Emissary, is why humanity was laughing." The revelation. Supreme Commander Quetzal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Where moments before there had been only the expected minimal human defenses, now a vast network of advanced weaponry and defensive platforms surrounded the entire Sol system. His sensor officers were reporting technology signatures that exceeded even Jarkai capabilities in several categories. "Impossible," he whispered, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "This cannot be." His first officer approached cautiously. "Supreme One, we are receiving a transmission from the human diplomatic station." Quetzal sank back into his command chair. "Display it." The main screen flickered, and Commander Alina Reyes appeared, her expression composed and professional. "Supreme Commander Quetzal," she began, not waiting for acknowledgement. "Your unprovoked attack against Earth has been neutralized. As you can now see, the Sol system is significantly better defended than your intelligence suggested." Quetzal's gray skin darkened with anger. "What trickery is this? No species could hide such infrastructure from our sensors." Alina smiled slightly. "Not trickery, Commander. Preparation. Humanity has spent the last century creating a defense system designed specifically to remain undetectable until activated. We call it the Sentinel Network." On the tactical display, more details appeared as human stealth systems fully deactivated. Weapon platforms orbiting not just Earth, but every major body in the Sol system. Defensive arrays hidden within asteroids. And most concerning of all, what appeared to be massive jump gate structures at strategic points throughout the system. "Your fleet is currently surrounded by 417 defensive platforms," Alina continued, "each capable of neutralizing a vessel of your flagship's class. Additionally, the Sol fleet is now moving into position." As if on cue, space rippled around the Jarke formation as human warships emerged seemingly from nowhere. Vessels far larger and more advanced than any publicly known human military ship. "You've hidden your true capabilities," Quetzal accused. "This violates galactic transparency protocols." Alina's expression hardened. "The same protocols your collective has ignored while conquering 3 systems in the past solar cycle. The same protocols that should have prevented you from threatening a sovereign species with extinction." Back on Artemis Station, the Council representatives watched the exchange with a mixture of shock and awe. The Tellurian ambassador leaned toward Alina. "How long has Earth maintained this level of defense?" he asked quietly. "Since before we joined the Council," she replied without taking her eyes off the main display. "Since before we officially achieved faster-than-light travel." "But why the deception?" Alina finally turned to face him. "Earth's history is written in the blood of civilizations that displayed their power too proudly, only to be destroyed by those who feared them. We learned that lesson long ago. On the main display, Quetzal was regaining his composure. You still cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Jarkey Collective. This fleet is merely a fraction of our forces. We're well aware, Elena responded, just as we're aware of the Collective's resource shortages on your inner worlds. The reason for your recent expansionism. Quetzal's eyes widened. How could you possibly? We've had observers within Jarkey space for decades, Elena interrupted. Not spies in the traditional sense, but automated systems gathering data. We know the Collective is facing internal pressure, resource depletion, population unrest. Your conquests aren't about security. They're about survival. In the conference chamber, the council representatives murmured among themselves. This level of intelligence gathering was unprecedented. What happens now? The Proximan delegate asked, his translucent appendages trembling slightly. Will humans retaliate? That depends on the Jarkey. Elena answered, loud enough for the transmission to pick up. We have no interest in conquest or punishment. Our only goal has always been security. She turned her full attention back to Quetzal. Supreme Commander, I'm authorized to offer terms. Return to your territory. Respect the sovereignty of all Council worlds and their colonies. In exchange, Earth is prepared to share sustainable resource extraction technologies that could address your shortages. Quetzal's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but his posture suggested shock. You would offer aid after we threatened your homeworld. Threats are just words, Elena replied. And words can be forgotten when actions change. We understand the pressure your leadership faces. We're offering a solution that doesn't require bloodshed. For several long moments, the Jarkey commander was silent. Then he straightened to his full height. The Collective does not retreat, he declared, but his tone had changed. However, we are willing to reassess the situation. Your defensive capabilities are unexpected. Perhaps there is room for discussion. Elena nodded, careful not to show relief. I suggest a formal diplomatic summit on neutral territory, the Tellurian homeworld, perhaps in 30 days. The Tellurian ambassador beside her straightened with surprise, but quickly nodded his agreement. Acceptable. Quetzal responded after a brief consultation with his officers. We will withdraw to the system boundary pending these talks. But know this, Commander Reyes. The Collective will be watching closely. As will we, Supreme Commander, Elena assured him, as we always have been. The transmission ended, and the tension in the conference chamber eased slightly. The council representatives began speaking all at once, demanding explanations, reassurances. Elena raised a hand for silence. I understand you all have questions. Earth's defensive posture has been classified until now for obvious reasons. But I assure you, every member world of the Council has similar protection, though you may not be aware of it. What do you mean? Asked the Centaurian representative, his feathered crest rising in confusion. The Sentinel network extends beyond Sol, Elena explained. When Earth joined the Council, we quietly extended our defensive umbrella to include all member worlds. Those same stealth platforms protect your homeworlds too. Disbelief and gratitude mingled on the faces of the representatives. But why? Asked the Proximan. Why protect us without telling us? Elena's expression softened. Because that's what humans do. We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And we protect our friends. As the Jarkey fleet began its withdrawal from the Sol system, Elena returned to the observation deck. Captain Chen joined her, standing at a respectful distance. The Jarkey are complying, he reported, though their long-range communications suggest they're already planning how to spin this as a strategic decision rather than a retreat. Elena nodded. Pride is important to them. Let them save face. It makes negotiation easier. Do you think they'll honor the agreement to meet? They'll come, Elena said confidently. They're curious now. They want to know how we hid so much for so long. And they need those resource technologies we offered. Chen hesitated. Permission to speak freely, Commander. Always, James. The look on their faces when the Sentinel network activated, he said, a smile breaking through his professional demeanor. I understand now why everyone was laughing. Elena allowed herself a small chuckle. The laughter wasn't about mockery. It was relief. Generations of humans maintained this secret, built these defenses, always wondering if they'd ever be needed. Today, they proved their worth without firing a shot. Below them, Earth continued its serene rotation, blue oceans and green continents visible through wispy white clouds. From this distance, it looked peaceful, vulnerable even. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity had been watching, waiting, preparing, and Earth was far from defenseless. Send word to all settlements, Elena instructed. The crisis has passed, but the Sentinel network remains active for now. And the summit preparations. Elena turned from the viewport. Begin immediately. When the Jarkai arrive, I want them to see humanity as we truly are, not just warriors and builders of defenses, but creators and problem solvers. If we're going to establish real peace, it starts with understanding. As Captain Chen departed to relay her orders, Elena remained at the viewport, watching as distant stars twinkled against the blackness of space. Somewhere out there, other species might be watching, calculating, planning moves against Earth or its allies. Let them come, she thought. Humanity would be ready. After all, they always had been.